everyone, and welcome to uh, the continuation of our Power Platform Business Series for beginners. And this is to welcome everybody on the call. And the last session we had last week was anchored by Oluwatobi Yusuf, and we were put through on different aspects of uh, Power Platform interface and the different platforms from Power Apps to Power Automate to Power BI to Power Virtual Agents and the latest baby from Power Platform, Power Pages. So without not wasting much time, Kingsley is going to take us through uh, on this continuation from what we did last week. And I want to hand over to Kingsley so that he can start immediately. Thank you, everyone. He's
Thank
going to
you.
introduce
Thank
to
you.
us what he's going to lecture us today. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, guys. So we are talking about Power Automate today. I don't know why they gave me Power Automate though. We're not really friends like that. Well, we are discussing Power Automate and basically like an introductory idea of what Power Automate is. Uh, before I even start sharing anything, I think I've asked Felix. Jean, what's your experience with Power Automate?
Should I say no experience?
Okay,
I've tried the
okay.
group for a while, but I was not able to attend the classes. So I'm thinking today is the beginning, the real beginning.
Okay.
I'll try to go through the videos in the group and see if I can catch up.
No wahala. Thank you. Patrick, sorry, John. Okay, thank you. Patrick. Hello, Patrick.
Yes, I can hear you. Good afternoon.
So yeah, I'm just gauging. Are you an Odogu or you're fresh into the part? Oh, plenty people.
No, I'm still new in the.
Yeah, you're still new. Okay, let's just quickly go because time is of the essence. So Power Automate. Let me speak plain English before I start showing anything. Power Automate is one of the applications in the Power Platform suites. Basically, what you use it for is to, I don't want to use the word automate, but it's to, so if you do have manual processes, let me say, for example, you have a manual process of, one of the best examples is data collection or, yeah, data collection. Maybe you have like field agents that, let's say, you're the owner of Guinness and you have a lot of agents that go out to do like customer surveys. That's data collection. So when they do it, or at the end of the day, you want to prepare some form of reports, or even while they're on the field, you want to get, maybe instant notifications about certain things. Let's say, for instance, if somebody in his submission reports that this particular outlet has so and so that is wrong with it, you want there to be a line of notification. That's just a basic example. There are other use cases. You can have an automation that crawls your email addresses to save your attachments. You can have an automation that automatically collates um, uh, reports from several locations and puts it into one place. So basically, if you have a situation where you're thinking, you are having teams doing things separately and you want a way for it to be automatically done and put together. I guess that's the whole concept of Power Automate. It's you have the cloud flows, you have the um, business process flows. That's like the three main ones. Then you have the cloud flows, business process flows. Then you have the Power Automate desktop. So different approaches to how we do automations on these several places, but I'm not going in depth anyways. So I want to do a small exercise before we even start. I hope we all have Power Automate on our phones. So the way to go is if you don't have it on your phone, raise your hand so that I'll know if we proceed or not. But if you do have it, don't worry. But if you don't have it on your phone, let me see your hands raised. Felix, you don't have it. Who else? Oliver. Okay, so we'll leave the exercise. Leave the exercise to just delay time. So let me just go straight to the docs, because the end goal of this entire series is that you should be prepared enough. Felix, John, you can put your hand up. You should be prepared enough to take the Power Platform Fundamentals certification, and it's free. There are different ways to access it. You should be planning towards it. That's the end. That is one of the goals of this entire business series. You should be comfortable enough to take the exam and get certified, become a Microsoft certified person, and it puts you one step forward. So let me just go to the docs, because that's what we're going to be using before I show the layout. So I'll show it interchangeably. So this is the module. So basically everything the English we're going to speak in here is already in docs.microsoft/ I'll probably drop this link. So in your spare time, where's the chats? So in your spare time. So Power Automate is an online workflow service that automates actions across common apps and services. So basically, if you're trying to look for a way to have applications talk to themselves, teams talk to themselves automatically, that's how you do it to Power Automate. So what can you do with Power Automate? Instantly respond to high priority notifications or emails, capture, track, follow up with new sales leads, copy or limit attachments to your OneDrive for business accounts, collect data about your business, and share information with your team, automate approval flows. These are examples that are ingrained in like business functions. If you would like to respond to mails automatically, maybe if you go on leave and you want like an autoresponder when you're on leave to tell everybody that you're on leave, and maybe when they send you a mail, you might not attend to it immediately. You can set that up. Power Automate gives you that power. You can have a flow that scrolls your mails for a particular topic. So it puts, maybe creates like a little folder in your Outlook to save those mails. Maybe sometimes you like to have like, maybe there's a particular subscription service you're subscribed to and you would like to put it in a separate folder. So it does that. For approval flows, the same thing. If you will have to have like simple approval, when vacation approval, leave approvals, all of that, Power Automate can do that for you. So these are just examples. I'll still go to the layouts. I just want to read what it's here. So give me a moment. Let me now. See, I told you Power Automate is my friend. I went to open my favorite friend. Anyways. So this is the layout of Power Automate. The docs are there for you to read, but this is the layout. So since it's an introductory class, I have to do something. So on the left side, you have the menu items. You have the home. You have action items for approvals, business profile flows. This is like already existing. If you have already existing approvals, you can also sort of create them here. Oh, no. This is just already existing. Then for business process flow, so it's just to monitor the ones that are already running that you've created. It's just to monitor them here. Then your flows, you can view all your flows. You can create your flows. Templates, Power Automate has like a multitude of templates to fit several business scenarios, and you have a lot of connectors. So it's not just limited to Microsoft's applications. You have, even from this field, you can see you have Bloomberg to collect RSS feeds. You can even connect it to your Gmail. You can connect it to your I think there are over 700 connectors as of now, or 900, if I'm not mistaken. So there are several connectors and there are several templates. You don't even need to, most times you don't need to build from scratch. If the templates already exist, you can just go in there, select whatever suits your particular use case or need or pain points, and you just work with it. Let's say, for example, save email attachments from Outlook to Dropbox if you would ever need something like that. Or you can even send an email for new tweets about a certain keyword. So the connectors are a lot and they keep adding new connectors. So there's so much you will be able to do with Power Automate and other applications in general. So these are all the connectors and you can initialize them and have them saved. I'll still come back to connectors. Then this is for Dataverse. I won't go too much into that point. Then to monitor so maybe it's just like to monitor all your activities and see maybe which flows are running, which flows are failing, all of that. Then you have AI Builder. You can explore this if you want to build AI flows. Then very recently, you have the Process Advisor. Very recently for Cloud Flows anyways, but it has always been for Power Automate Desktop. Process Advisor sort of gives you, for here now, it's speaking about desktop flows. But in Power Automate, you also have like a flow advisor, is it a flow insights, to give you an idea of how to structure your flows, but that's not beginner anyways. So let's create something. Let's create something from scratch. So if you wanted to create a flow, you have different starting points. You have different types of flows. You have automated cloud flows, instant cloud flows, which is more like manual cloud flows. You have scheduled cloud flows. You can say you want for automated cloud flows, let's say you want something to happen when something happens, or you don't want like a manual input. Let's say, for instance, when you receive a mail, you want another action to follow that trigger. That's the situation that works for automated cloud flows. For instant cloud flows, you want to be the one to manually initiate the process. You click a button or you click a button anyways, whether it's on your phone or in Power Apps, then, or you come to flow itself and just manually run the flow. Then scheduled flow, it runs at a certain time or a certain time or certain day. Maybe you want an email reminder to go out every morning, or you want an Excel report to be populated and generated after COB on Friday. Desktop flow won't go into that. Business process flow, process advisor, so all of that. So for this, let's do an instant cloud flow. So you see all the manual triggers. So this one speaks to you. That's why I asked if you had the mobile app, you would have been able to run this tiny experiment with me, but let's just carry on. You can also connect your flows to Power Apps. And when you click a button in Power Apps, you run that flow. For instance, if somebody is making a submission and wants to immediately notify their supervisor that of a certain situation in their current, maybe they've gone for field inspection and they want to quickly tell the supervisor that so and so, or maybe when they submit a form, or they want to have a way to just immediately, mostly notifications, or immediately start a process. So it has different scenarios. You can use it to immediately, if you're working with APIs, also get information from an API. So different use cases. I'm just trying to stay at the simple level. Power BI for a selected item. So yeah, let's start. manually trigger it here. So what do we want to do? So now, the basic structure of every flow is just two things. You have the trigger and you have several actions. So a flow comprises of a trigger, which initiates the process, be it a cloud flow, manually triggered flow, scheduled flow. So for cloud flows, the trigger is something will happen or an event that nobody needs to know, that really doesn't need human what's the English word? It really doesn't need anybody to start it. It's the cloud flow. So an event, maybe an email pops into your email box, a new SharePoint list item is added. So an event occurs and several actions take place. Now for manual triggers, you're clicking a button either here or in Power Apps or wherever. Then for scheduled flows, when it reaches that day or that time, the flow would start. So the trigger is either an event, your manual input, or your manual action. Sorry, not input. Your manual action, or it's a particular time of the day or a particular time you set. So we're doing the manual trigger flow here. So what should be the action? So after you have the triggers, you have several actions. I can have a multitude of actions, can be as much as I want, but the basic concept is that there's one trigger, one thing triggers it, and everything else becomes the action. So that's the structure you need to stay with. One trigger, several actions. So what do I want to do now? Let's say send an email. Someone should sacrifice their email address, please. I'll just go and steal it. Someone should sacrifice their email address. Has somebody done that?
Personal or official email address?
Let it be a non-Outlook mail. Let it be Gmail, so that to prove the points.
Okay, emekus@gmail.com. EMEKUUS. Okay, someone has dropped. Okay, you can use the one that Felix dropped.
Let me use everybody. The more the merrier. What is wrong with you? Now we are talking. Then let me just use two. I'm actually wasting time here. Okay. So we save that. Then we test it. So we've come to testing. So anytime you build a flow, it is good practice to test it before you deploy it. Because let's say you're not building for yourself, you're building for your team members or a large scale. It's common to test it, and there are two options when it comes to testing your flow. You have testing it manually, that's you trigger it within the Power Automate studio environment. Then, or you automatically use. So automatical testing is we'll get to see that if you've had instances where the flow has been run before, especially if it's under 28-day period. So your flow runs are. Let's get there. Anyways, let me just manually do this. Okay. And I run. So you must save the flow before you can test it. Who are the culprits I sent this to? Daniel and Oloyede. Oh, Felix, did you guys get the mails? Just confirm.
I'm checking now.
Yeah, I got the mail now.
Okay, so basically it's that instance is that simple. So that's what I wanted to show. So let me explain the concept of so I just manually trigger this flow just to test it. And you can also have manual testing even for automated flows and scheduled flows. So it's basically running it within the Power Automate environment. You just want to run it to test it to see that, check that all your actions that you've put in place would go as you've planned. Maybe you have different action cards and you want to be sure that they perform as you expect. So you have to test it. That's manual testing. Now, automatically, before I had like a red, I wish I'd explained that then anyways. I had like a red text here telling me that I had no flow runs, so I couldn't do an automatic test. So automatic means you have a flow run. So you're going to use previous data. Let's say I decide that I want to add, I'm sorry for you guys and your mails though. Let's say I want to add Jubril. I decided I want to put Jubril into my flow reminder. So let's just call it a flow reminder, but I'm the one manually triggering it anyways. Let's say I want to add Jubril to my recipient of this mail. I said Jubril is now worthy to receive my mails. So I've added his name, and I wanted to be sure that Jubril will get this. So I do a test. Now I have the option of using one of my last runs to do that test. So I don't have to provide any data, and I'll show you the difference soon. So Jubril, just confirm that you got the mail. Let me do something else that isn't mail related. Let's just say, for the purpose of this, I want to have a so for manual triggers, you can also if this was a button, so manual triggers, you would have, if it's not in Power Apps and you wanted to do manually trigger it outside the Power Automate environment, you would have access to like even within here, a button. So when you click it, if there was any required inputs that was set by the flow creator, which will be you or whoever set it, you will be asked to impute those things. So that's why we are seeing this input types here. So you have the text, yes or no, file, email, number, dates. Say for instance, if this was a calculator flow, and maybe you in your company you wanted to set up like maybe there's this complex calculator that you guys use, but you set it up in Power Automate, which is very possible. So you give your team members a manual flow so that when they provide a certain input, it gives them the desired output. Or even if it's currency, let's do currency. Let's say I set, this is a manual trigger. This is Naira, and I want to get the dollar equivalents anytime I trigger this flow. So what I'll have a compose action. I think there are different ways to do this, but let's just use compose action. What's the current rate of Naira dollar? Let's just use black market. So that would be
620.
That's 620 bar. So is it times 620 or divided by 620? Okay, divided by. So
Alright. That's 620.
divided by bar. Okay. So expressions. Briefly explain this. So you can write expressions in Power Automate. I don't want to go too in depth in this because we really just want to introduce us generally to the idea of Power Automate. You can write expressions. Let's say, for instance, this situation, this use case. Now I said I want to give my team members a currency calculator. Anytime they input Naira, it gives them that day, the dollar value for that day. But we're going to manually put the dollar value anyways. So let's initialize the dollar value before we even do this. Sorry, the dollar rates. Initialize. So we initialize a variable, dollar rates. In the real world situation, this would be dynamic. It won't be static. So dynamic it comes from ever-changing data source. Let's use integer because we just want 620. So you don't even need to stress yourself. If you wanted to write an expression and you're wondering what's the way you want to write the expression, Power Automate already gives you all those options. For string functions, you have concat, and it gives you an explanation of what will happen when you and how to the syntax. Concat, substring, slice, replace, GUID, all of that. But I'm not going to bother about that. You can do so. We're going straight to math functions because this is a mathematical function. So to get the dollar rates of Naira, we have to divide the Naira value by dollar. Since we are dealing with money, we have to allow for decimal place. So we'll say we'll allow for it to be a float instead of an integer. I just need to state that. So when we come here, I'll explain why I have to type floats. Okay, another thing. Let me explain this. So this is the syntax as is here. Where's math function? And it's telling me number divisor. The number to be divided by the divisor, the results, that's different. Anyway, so the number, which is the number that I would provide when I am manually triggering the flow, the divisor is the rate for that day. And as we know, today is 620. Tomorrow it might be 800, God forbid. So number divisor. Now, obviously, there's no way for me to write like a manual value for this divisor now. So it has to be a dynamic value. It has to be whatever the person is sending in that day. And remember, when I selected the inputs for the manual trigger, I already mandated the input of text. So I already have that available to me here, Naira. So I don't have to type anything. I just have to wrap that in floats. Then the dollar rates. Voila. So one more thing, let's say, okay, I would have said email notification, but in the use case, so let's still do email notification. So to be the output, you can trace that in the dynamic content under compose, which is compose here. See compose. For variables, you have variables. That's how you sort of track the output of, because all your action cards have outputs. The initialized variable has an output of whatever variable, whatever dollar rate we set for that day, and you can get that in your dynamic content. If you trace the action card name, and sometimes it's good practice to sort of change the name so that, let's say for instance, because like I said, you can have a multitude of, didn't change here. Anyways, so you can have a multitude, even just visually, you can have a multitude of initializations, and all of them will all be initialized variable compose. It's good practice to actually edit the name to suit what that action card is currently doing, so that visually, if someone else comes to your work, they can understand it. Even you, after 2 days, you might forget what you've done. It's very possible. So we save that and I test it. So for this instance, I could use my earlier flow runs and the situation will change. Even though I am using old data, it will still test the flow based on the new context, based on all the new things I've done. So just because I'm using old information, old data, doesn't mean that it will test it with the old context. So before it was an email and all of that, but this is, let's just see. So it won't even allow me. So the only way, so this error, I need to explain because I even noticed this a while ago. This error means there is no flow. The new context doesn't suit the old flow, so you wouldn't do this. There are certain instances this error won't come out if the change wasn't too drastic, but this change was entirely very drastic, so this would not even work. So let's say 500K. The flow ran successfully, and even without checking my mail, I can get the output. But obviously, for the person on the field, they will get a response in their mail telling them the current dollar equivalent of that naira rate. So I put in 500K. The rates for that day was 620, and the value of 806. Let's check. Is my mailbox open? So yeah, dollar rates 806, and I can beautify this, but so if I continue, any questions? Before I continue, anybody needs clarity on anything before we proceed?
So if you have any question, you can raise up your hand, please. Anybody with questions before Kingsley continues?
Or anybody that doesn't understand anything so far, even if it's not.
Okay, Mark, Timothy.
Yeah. I tried running the, but it's like I'm getting confused. So I just want to ask, we should get a video, should we? Is it possible? So we can just try it on our own, and I'll maybe later after the class.
I didn't hear that.
We didn't hear you. We didn't clearly hear your question or your voice properly.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was kind of asking if, can you hear me now, please?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I was kind of asking if, because I tried running the same process on my Outlook, my Power Automate. Yeah, I don't know. Is it possible for us to get the video after the class so we can know that just practice and retry?
Okay.
Yeah, definitely you get the video for this session, all right, and past sessions as well.
Okay, that's nice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so let's go back to Microsoft Docs. So far, I've explained the different types of cloud flows, manually triggered, scheduled, automated, and I've run examples using manual triggers. Let's go back to the docs and see what else we need to do. Create your current flows. Let's see. Okay, let's say for instance you've created this beautiful flow and obviously you want to share with your team members. So what I meant by process advisor is called process insight. This is pretty new. Before I go back to sharing the flow, which is what I wanted to go to, let me just show this. This is pretty new. This is going to take a while. While that's it, we'll come back to that one. So you want to share the flow with your team members so that they can run it and get outputs. Obviously, I don't have a lot of people in my tenant. I hope we all understand how Microsoft works. You only be able to share the flow with users in that particular environment, in that particular tenant. And even sometimes if you are in a certain user group, you might not be able to share resources outside that user group. So Microsoft is very tenant based, and what that means is, let's say for instance, if Lagos is a tenant, you cannot share anything with. You can, but let me just say you cannot share anything with anybody in Ibadan unless you profile the person. Let me even type my Gmail here just to show you. Unless you profile the person in Lagos, give the person an account in Lagos, then they can be able to use it. Let me use somebody else's email address. So I get that error. Is not in my organization, and this is my developer. I hope we've all set our developer accounts. Anyways, so you cannot share this outside. But if I had team members, which I do, I think, do I? So I have team members. I can share with Sheon, can share it with several other people, and because I'm sharing it with them, I'm still the only one that has. They can edit the flow, obviously, but I'm still the only one that can delete the flow. And even when they make changes, I get notifications about the changes that they make to the flow. So we've talked about flow types, creating the flow, sharing the flow. And now let's do something else. Let's run another example. I'm just trying to think about the exact scenario that would be nice. Oh yes, so I created this for this particular class, but I don't think we had enough people at the start, so couldn't run it. So what this flow does is we would have all had to recreate this on our individual tenants and use my email address. But what it does is anytime I trigger the flow, another flow gets triggered. Another flow that acts like a form of an email listener gets triggered. And what that flow does, it doesn't run right now. Let me see. Hurry up, hurry up. Yes, 3 seconds ago, succeeded. This flow runs, and what this flow does is to help me create an item in SharePoint. Since Toby already took us on basically introduction to Power, I'm sure you must have touched SharePoint. So SharePoint is a very, very comfortable data source for you to work with, and you can create Excel-like data or tables. So what this flow will do is now create an item in that table. Let me go to that SharePoint and show you. Did I click on the wrong site? The right site now. I can't find my own list again. What's going on here? Okay, I had it open here anyways. So this was the question I just sent in. I have a question about Power Automate, and it collected my name, my email address, message ID, and conversation ID. So that is another use case of Power Automate. There are two different use cases. I want to automatically be able to send in or send out information once I trigger the flow. Maybe I already have somebody I give feedback to at the close of business every day. I manually set up a flow, and once I click a button or I manually trigger the flow, I just type in the message and it automatically sends hassle-free. And the second situation is on my email, I've said when I receive an email with this subject question, maybe I use a string to sort of act like a string to use a string to sort of trace my emails and crawl through my emails to see if I see this in the subject, please create a list for me in my SharePoint site. So let's do one more run just to show you. Then I'll explain the flow, even though I feel it's pretty simple. So automatically, or not so, but automatically, this one would run. Not yet. Let's give it a while. Okay. And my SharePoint item would be 2 now. Yes, so I prefer Power Apps to you. So that's a very easy use case. And there are different, like I said, several connectors, several ways to create your flows. I've just really touched on manual because, it gives you like a starting point. And I've showed you a bit about automated cloud flows, and I'll explain the email listener I just did right now before I explained how to monitor your flows and what flow runs means. So when a new email arrives, so whenever you either a trigger card or an action card. There are certain inputs that you can specify. So for this instance now, these are the inputs I can use to now filter through my mailbox. So let's say, for instance, I added that Rachel email must be in copy. If not, do not do this action. That would have been another condition. So each input here forms a new condition that your flow would have to put into consideration before it does what it has to do. If I say that I must include attachments, then the two other runs would not work. Since I didn't attach, let me just quickly show that I would have no item would be, I'll just use an old run. No item will be created. You did. What is this bamboozling? So I guess that one has defeated. Oh, sorry, this is not. This is to include attachments that were in the mail. Nothing. Imagine. Sorry, that was a mistake. Anyways, so when the mail arrives and the subject filter was question. So if I change this to Twitter, it would not work. Is this thing trying to disgrace me? This place is trying to disgrace me. Anyways, the subject filter, it looks into the subject and it knows this is the mail it needs to save, and it creates an item. So you would have already created your SharePoint list, and when you connect your SharePoint list as an action card, let's save this and delete this. Or just click on SharePoint. You would see create an item. You select the SharePoint site address. I know what was wrong with you. Then the list, you have to select the list name, automate class. So it immediately brings out all the fields that you set in your SharePoint. Then you map it one by one. The title would have been the subject, the body, and such. So those are two scenarios. Now let's go back to, obviously I don't want to save this. Let's go back to this portion. So, yeah, I'm rounding up.
Yeah, I have yes. So we have few minutes to closing time, and yes. So the question I'm going to ask is probably going to be an offshoot of the continuation of your session. All right, which has to do with this last part you are introducing to us, flow that triggers another flow. All right, and you know quite well there are new people within us, and introducing SharePoint is good within the flow, but as well we need to know the data elements that you created within SharePoint to be able to call them up on Power Automate or within this flow. All right, so we just have 2 minutes. I want to ask if anyone has any questions based on what Kingsley has shown us so far.
Oh yeah, while everybody's indicating, sorry, I sort of assumed we've done SharePoint. That's why I didn't go through that.
Yes, we've done SharePoint, but not deeply.
Not in this context. Okay.
Not in this context. And introducing SharePoint, definitely created a SharePoint list, right?
Yeah.
That we're making reference to. Exactly. So yes. So the newcomers within us will definitely need to know how the list was created, permission granted within the list, the data elements created within the list, and how you are going to, or you were calling them up within this flow.
Okay. Timothy, what flow do you want me to create? And let's see how many minutes it will take.
It's just 1 minute, and we might not have that time.
Yeah, we might not have that time.
Yes, yes.
We can probably leave it. Oh, okay. You know what, Timothy?
Yeah, after me actually.
Not just Timothy. I think other.
So
other
this is what's
new-
going. So let's do this since I already created it, and I think I don't know if I'm the one doing the next class, but
you have to continue.
Okay, so since I'm the one
Yes.
doing this, imagine me looking for my own mailbox. Anyway, so I want to drop this here. You can remember the syntax or whatever syntax you use, anyways. Just send a mail. Send a mail, questions, comma, your name, and I will use that to start the next class. Now I think that's good. Send a name. So the format is subject. Or the question should be in front, then your name.
Okay.
And the body is whatever thing you want us to do for next class. Just send it to that mail.
Okay. Thank you, Kingsley. We truly appreciate what you have been able to put through for us. You started by introducing us to what Power Automate is and how we can use it to create and complete repetitive tasks. And as well, you demoed to us the interface of Power Apps where we were able to see all the flows or flows that we've created and how we can create a new flow, the templates which are predefined flows to use and configure a task in our organizations, as well as connectors we can use to initialize a flow, then monitors to see the flows that are running or failing. And hello, I'm hearing somebody's voice, please.
I'm very sorry.
Okay, so you were able to show us the different ways we can as well start to make a flow using an instant cloud flow, and you mentioned some best practices to follow too when you manually trigger a flow as well, with different scenarios of how to manually trigger a flow. And last, you demo to us what you are going to continue from the next class, a flow that triggers another flow, and some other things as well. So thank you everyone, and especially the facilitator and each of you that joined to make this session a success. The recording will be shared via the YouTube channel, and do join to in the next class to be able to have this continuation a success as well. Thank you everyone, and have a great evening.
All right, thank you guys. I'm just dropping resources for people that need to read it. So,
yes.